But there's actually a very special story behind how I stopped hating Jewish people. Because, I was raised a Muslim and still am a Muslim, and I was spoon-fed and I was signed up for, I don't want to call it a belief system, but a cultural system that rejects the Jews completely. And there's just no hope with Muslims and Jews. That's the background I came from. So something happened in my life that changed that completely changed me as a person and how I deal with Jewish people.
How does a Muslim imam change his upbringing to begin recognizing and appreciating Judaism? You have to watch this amazing story. It is so revealing and so true.
I'd like to share a story with you. Not many people know my story. Like, nobody has written my story yet. And the only person authorized to do so is myself, unless I authorize someone to write about me. But until then, I'll share some things with you that are not easy to speak about. These things, they need me to sit down and make sure I get the words out right. But nevertheless, here's a story. Many people ask me, how did you become a reformer? Like, how do these things happen? You're not born a Muslim reformer. There's a transition, there's a development to develop into a reformer. How did these things happen? What triggered you? When did you realize that it was time to call for reformation? What was going on? And to be honest with you, it wasn't one particular scenario that I went through that I made my mind after and said, okay, well, it's a time for reformation. You don't just wake up and say, okay, I'm going to be a reformer. Things don't happen like that in the real world. It's moving for me to tell this story. Every time I tell the story, people either they don't appreciate it or they don't understand how much it means to me. But yeah, many of you have seen me shake hands with Avi, my Jewish brother, and there are plenty of Jewish people on my page, and many see me very friendly with them. And other people, when they see this, they say, oh, look at Imam Tawhidi, he's either trying to fit in or practicing taqiyya or deception or this or that. But there's actually a very special story behind how I stopped hating Jewish people. Because, I was raised a Muslim and still am a Muslim, and I was spoon-fed and I was signed up for, I don't want to call it a belief system, but a cultural system that rejects the Jews completely. And there's just no hope with Muslims and Jews. That's the background I came from. So something happened in my life that changed that completely changed me as a person and how I deal with Jewish people. It was in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. I was driving my car between Melbourne, the city of Melbourne, and I was heading down to Shepparton. Those who are from Melbourne would know that it's a good 2-hour drive, and you go through the Goulburn Valley, and you're basically heading towards Sydney. Then there's Cobram, and then there's Mulwala, and you cross all those areas. So I was basically a good hour and a half out of Melbourne driving my old Ford Falcon that needed service. It was overdue, and it was, how Melbourne weather was like. It's sunny in the morning, raining later on. It was literally pouring rain, and it wasn't a good day for me. It was probably one of the worst days of my life. So my car breaks down just between Melbourne and Shepparton, and the car breaks down, and I'm not a mechanic. I don't know how to fix cars. I wasn't registered with the roadside assistance, the RACV, and I didn't have anyone that would literally drive all the way to come and help me. Like, I didn't know a mechanic that would come and tow, and it was after hours as well. So I said to myself, the best thing is I'm going to sleep in the car. It's going to be nighttime, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. I made the decision I was going to sleep in my car, and in the morning, I was going to take a very long walk to the nearest exit, which would be a town, try to get some help, and that was the plan. Wake up in the morning and go. And basically, I tried my best. I had broken down. I opened the bonnet, tried to see what was going on. I had no clue where to start. I checked the oil a few times. I didn't know what was going on. I thought it would be the radiator. I poured some water in. Didn't work. The car wouldn't turn on. I just ignored everything. I mean, I could call family, but, why drive 1 hour and a half to get to me? And then it was just too much to ask at that time. I wasn't comfortable with it either. So I just said, you know what, I'm just going to stay in the car. But before that, as I said, I had my bonnet open and I was hoping for someone to stop by. Hundreds of cars passed by. Hundreds of cars. Not one person stopped by. I had my hazard lights on. I was signaling people, hoping that someone, anyone, even a Muslim, would recognize me with my beard, hopefully stop for me. Truck drivers, anyone. I just wanted someone to stop and help me out. I didn't know if I needed some spark plugs. I didn't know what was going on. Nevertheless, there was, sunset didn't happen yet at the time. So I was just sitting on the grass in front of my car, pulled to the side of the road, sitting on the grass. And, I had a book in the car and I was just reading, basically doing nothing, just waiting for the night to come. And then I'll get in my car and just sleep. I was alone. I couldn't push it on the highway. I couldn't see the upcoming exit and I wasn't prepared to walk all the way there because I didn't know what was going to happen to my car. And 2014 was the year that I returned back from Iraq. So I had gone for a good 10-year journey in Iran and then Iraq, and I had come back and I'm here to start my preaching, and I have an Islamist ideology. I have no intention to deal with Christians or Jews in this country at all. And yeah, this is what happened. A Jewish man pulled over. He pulled over and he was dressed as a Jewish man. So you can tell he's a practicing Jew. He had the curly hairs down the side and he had a beard, he had his hat, black vest, white shirt, he had the white strings coming out. And when I saw that, I knew what was going on. I knew that he had stopped for assistance. But the mentality that I had at that time, and this is going back to 2014, the mentality that I had said, really, God? Really? Out of all these proper human beings, you send me a Jew? That was the mentality. I said, you send me a Jewish man? No way. No way is this happening. And I don't feel good repeating all of this, but I want you to know how that change happened. I said, no way. So the man approached me as I'm sitting down and I got up full guard and he said, are you all right there? Proper English, are you all right there? And I said, why? Who are you? Are you a mechanic? What do you want? Just very defensive, very full rejection mode. And he said, I'm just trying to see if you're okay. Basically, trying to see if I can help. And I said, get out of here. Literally, this was my reaction. Get out of here. Just go. Like that. I was doing this, showing him off. I say, just go, mate, go. I don't want anything to do with you. You're not helping me. And just get lost. So I was prepared to spend the night in the car in the middle of nowhere. Pay attention. On that highway between Melbourne and Shepparton, when it's nighttime, it is nighttime. You can't even see your own finger. You can't even see your own hand, like literally dark. And it is scary. If you're alone, a normal person who hasn't experienced that before, it's not the best experience. And I said, just go away. I'm going to sleep in the car. I'll wake up in the morning. I'll find help from a non-Jewish proper human being. Just get lost. Leave me alone. That was what was going through my head. And he turned around. He left me alone. He respected what I requested. Left me alone. And it was already drizzling, like you can tell. I remember that it was raining because his window wipers were on. And he went in his car and he sat. He wouldn't move. And then that's when I came and I said, you Jewish this, you Jewish that, swear words. Leave. Go. I was telling him to go. Get out of here. And he wouldn't go. So then I got more angry and I said, look, leave. I got really angry. Like I was about to hit his car. Just leave me alone. I was about to start kicking his car. I don't need a Jewish man in the middle of the street. So he drove off and then he appeared again, but this time in a very cheeky way. He was reversing. So it was getting dark and I see red lights reversing back. So what he did was he drove down the road and stopped and was reversing very slowly. And he was very persistent, like he was insisting to stay. So I laughed, And obviously nighttime was approaching and I somewhat started to feel worried, like, What if my phone dies out in the middle of the night? I didn't want to call my family and tell them that I'm in the middle of the night, stranded, So I said, okay, let this man help me. And I wasn't happy with it at all, but it was just trying to get myself out of the situation. I had no choice but a Jewish man. I said, okay, let's see what happens. So I signaled him. I said, come. I signaled him twice, 3 times. He stayed put. So I went in front of my car. I turned the headlights on. I stood in front of the headlights and I signaled him and he came back. He reversed all the way back. And I remember myself as he was reversing, I stood out a little bit to the road and I'm telling cars to go away so they don't hit him when he's reversing. In any case, he reverses back. And this is also in the emergency lane. He gets out of his car and I don't shake his hand, but I tell him, my car's broken. I don't know what's happening. And he said, I can take you to the nearest town. I said, okay. I get in his car. Well, first I lock my car up. I take everything out and I make sure it's secure. I'll come back in the morning. I get in his car and we're driving to a town called Echuca, if that's how it's pronounced. ECHECHUKA or CA, between Melbourne and Shepparton. And when I got in his car, I got in the back seat. I didn't get in the front seat because he's a Jew. I'm like forced to be with him. So I sat in the back seat and he drove me to that town or village. And I spent the night there safely in a warm bed, in a motel, drive-in. And he left. In the car, he noticed that I was not very happy of him being a Jewish man. He didn't say a word. And he might be watching this. I don't know. I don't know if he's seen me on TV and said, hey, that's the guy I helped. I don't know. I don't know his name. I don't know if he was from Melbourne, if he was traveling, if he was going to Sydney. I have no idea. I've never met the guy after that. And there's this regret within me. Like, I wish I didn't do that to that person, but I didn't know better at the time. Like, that's how I was raised. That's the community I come from. And it was that morning that I woke up. And when I came back to my car, obviously I called the taxi. They were there in the area, in the village, and we drove back. And I came back to the same scene where all of this had happened yesterday. I was very touched by what he did. Like, I wasn't touched in the morning when I woke up in a comfortable bed in a motel. But when I came back and I saw my car stranded and we're driving towards it, and you have that back image and you're looking at the whole scene and you're in the middle of nowhere and you see your car, and I realized what I was going through at night time. Like, you're looking at the area during the day and you're thinking to yourself, or I'm thinking to myself, I was here in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere. And this man came up to me and he stood here and he drove all the way there and then reversed back and was very kind to me, didn't want money or anything. Insisted on helping me. That's all he did. He insisted on helping me. I was very touched by it when I came back and I opened my car and I got inside. Was very, very touched by what he had done. And it was early in the morning and, it was reasonable for me to call one of my cousins. They drove all the way. I stayed in the car and I got help later on. But the point is, even when my cousins came and they said, what happened? How did you get here? Where did you spend the night? I didn't have answers to them. I didn't want to tell them that I was helped by a Jewish man because it was shameful. But deep inside, I knew that what that man did was something very honorable, something extremely honorable. And I had promised myself then and there that if I ever see this man, I'm going to give him the biggest hug ever. Especially now. And I really hope that one day he notices me on television or on the street or whatever and comes up to me and identifies himself that I'm the man that helped you. And because of that man, that Jewish man, and him helping me, I spent many hours driving between Melbourne and Shepparton, Melbourne, Sydney. During my time in Melbourne, when I lived there, I would drive there at least once a week. I stopped and I helped every man and every woman stranded in the street. Why? Because that Jewish man taught me. I wouldn't stop for other people before, but that Jewish man taught me how to stop for people. I stopped for a lady who was terrified from a huntsman spider in her car, and I waited for her until her boyfriend came and picked her up because she wasn't going to drive that car again. I waited for a good 2 to 3 hours. It was because of that Jewish man. I helped another man. His radiator was off and he needed water. And I went all the way to the nearest village to a no longer active petrol station, looking for plastic bottles in rubbish bins, went to that petrol station, used its tap to fill up these water bottles, and coming back. In fact, one of the water bottles didn't have a lid and I had it between my legs as I drove. I drove all the way back and made a U-turn and then drove all the way back again for that man. And he gave me his name and I still remember everything about him. He offered me money, didn't take the money. And I'm not here trying to share with you my good deeds, but the credit goes to that Jewish man who taught me how to stop for people. It's never too late to learn, never too late to change, to become a better person. And many, many other scenarios in my life. I stopped in my car to help people. Sometimes I've reversed all the way back in a very dangerous situation, just to ask, are you okay? Some people were just on their phone, pulled over. And I would reverse all the way back and park next to them, turn my light on and ask them, are you okay? Thumbs up. They give me the thumbs up. I would drive by. I continue driving. And I was taught that by that Jewish man. And this was one of the main reasons why I stopped hating Jewish people. I stopped hating them. And later on, I began to love them. And later on, I found a community that would embrace me and embrace every other human being. And that's how my friendship began with the Jewish community. And there's a story behind it. And although it might sound very simple to people watching this, it was actually a very special story. And it was very important. And it was a very important interaction. That was the first interaction I had ever had with a Jewish man. And it changed my life. I'm not ashamed to share this story. I wanted to write this in an article, but I wanted you to see me narrate it. It's different when I'm narrating it. Nevertheless, I really hope that all of you had a wonderful weekend. God bless you all. Have a successful week and we'll stay in touch.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What an amazing story. Firsthand. And to understand and to appreciate the journey of an imam who grew up Muslim, grew up with all the sentiments of anti-Semitism and to hate Jews with basically baseless hatred. And then at some point in his life, he has an experience that becomes like an epiphany and gets to realize his whole life was living a lie. It wasn't true. Everything he was brought up to believe of what Jewish people are like was not true. King David writes in Psalm 37 that God decides man's footsteps. What happened to this imam on the road in Melbourne, Australia, was nothing short of divine providence. As he said, his car broke down, he's on the side, hundreds of people would go by, Muslims, Christians, others, no one would stop to assist him. But who stopped? An observant Jew. And the way he described his initial natural reaction, that's the way he grew up. That's the only way he knew. And how it truly transformed him. So if we analyze this story, you could understand and appreciate the two diverse worlds that are out there. Let's begin with Judaism. Many people fail to truly appreciate and understand the journey of Judaism and what Judaism is all about. And also, it may answer, why does everyone hate us? Why are we the most hated religion of all time? Why have we been displaced more than any other religion? And we finally found our way back to our homeland, and now they want to displace us again. Why is that? Judaism is a religion, as referred to the mother of all religions, because it dates back 3,337 years ago, and even before, in the days of Abraham, the Abrahamic religion. Abraham was the first Jew, and he earned that crown as being the first Jew because he discovered God, and he introduced monotheism to a world that until then were basically idol worshipping, a world of pagan worshipping, etc. When Abraham discovered God, he discovered the only path to spirituality and to godliness is one word, and that is kindness. In Hebrew, it's called chesed, kindness. And Abraham immediately built a tent. Him and his wife Sarah together, they built a tent in the hot, scorching desert with 4 openings so people from all 4 directions can come. And they would stop, he would feed them, give them lodging, give them the food, drink. And after they finished, he would ask him, how much do we owe you? And he would say, don't owe me anything. It's God. God, they never heard of God. And he began teaching them about God. And he says, you thank God you don't owe me anything, because everything comes from God. I'm just the middleman, but everything comes from God. And that is the beginning of Judaism. It was built on kindness. It was built on benevolence, on compassion, on helping others. This has become the trademark. This has become part of our DNA as a Jewish person. The Talmud writes there are 3 signs in the DNA of the Jewish people. There was no recognition of DNA those days, but it talks about these are 3 signs. We use it allegorically as DNA. These are 3 signs of a Jewish person. They are compassionate, bashful, and kind. The difference between compassionate and kindness is you could feel sorry for someone, but what do you do about it? You could stand on the sideways and say, oh, I feel so bad for this person whose car broke down on the side of the road. Or you could actually pull over and give benevolence and be kind and generous. And this is in the DNA of the Jewish people. This is who we are. This is what we are all about. And this is what we always have been for 3,337 years. We're all about goodness, kindness, generosity, and lending a hand wherever we can. Israel, who's become a country once again since 1948, has followed these fundamentals, the bedrock of our religion. Whenever there's a national catastrophe, internationally, no matter where it is, Israel's from the first responders to jump on a plane and land and set up a triage, set up rescue teams, whether it's a tsunami, whether it's an earthquake, or whether it's a wildfire. Israel has always been from the first responders. And almost all countries would welcome their help. Tragically, in the 80s, there was a horrific earthquake in Iran. And Israel offered their expertise, and they have a lot of expertise in rescue and retrieve and rescue. And Iran said, no, we'd rather let our people die than get your help. That is the exception. But when there was the earthquake in Haiti, Israel was right there. When the wildfires in California, Israel was there. And in India with the tsunamis, etc., we are always there because that is who we are. We are benevolent, giving people. And that's why they hate us so much. They hate us because we have a different set of rules. We follow what's called the Bible, the Torah. And it's not negotiable. As an observant Jew, you have to follow the Bible. You got to follow the laws because we are so devoted to God. We don't serve God and follow the rules because we're fear of punishment. We do it out of love, out of awe, out of our great understanding that there's a God in heaven, the omnipotent, omnipresent, that we want to connect with God. We want to have a relationship. We want to keep that relationship that happened at Mount Sinai when God said, I will take you as my nation, but you got to accept me as your God. And we have a relationship, we have a partnership. And the partnership for the Jewish people is to be a light unto the nations. God said, take the 10 Commandments, take the Torah, and go teach it to the world. But you got to live by the book. You can't just talk the talk. You got to walk the walk. You can't just study Torah. You have to act like a Torah person. You have to act like you are representing God, that God is counting on you. You're his ambassador to do the goodness. When this individual, this traditional Jew who's driving by and sees another person, he didn't see him as an Imam, didn't see him as a Muslim, didn't look at him, judge him by his race, color, or religion. He saw an image of God. This is a human being in distress. And we know nowadays how dangerous it is to stop on a road to try to help someone who sometimes doesn't need your help, but they have very ill intentions. Sadly, many tragic situations have unfolded like that. So at great risk, this religious Jew knew that he had a religious responsibility to stop and offer a hand. And look, the ripple effect, how it changed his whole Iman's life. It changed his whole outlook in life. His whole relationship with God and Israel has changed from one act of good kindness. And this is just a beautiful lesson. We should all listen, we should all learn from this, that never underestimate your kindness. Never, ever allow an opportunity to pass. We have been taught in Judaism to always be an opportunist. Whenever you have an opportunity to do something good, do not let it pass by you. Because every opportunity that comes your way is by divine providence, is because God is putting it in front of you so you can act on it and do something with it. So this is such a beautiful story. It just warmed my heart. It was, there's so much negativity out there, so much hate out there, there was so much vile lies, myths, and conspiracies and just baseless hatred out there. It was so refreshing to hear a nice, beautiful story from this Imam. Imam, God bless you. God bless you so. Spread the word. Be strong. God gave you this opportunity because he tapped you on the shoulder and he woke you up. Now it's time for you to wake up all the other Imams that are out there. Let them see the truth. Let them see that the Jewish people are good people. We're kind. We want to be there for everyone. Israel has a right to exist. Israel always comes in peace. And let's pray to God that happens. God bless you. God loves you.